How a poor boy from Japan started a billion-dollar car company, Honda. In 1922, the owner of Art Shokoi assigned a young boy to clean the workshop and look after his child. At the time, nobody guessed that one day, that kid would become the founder of the largest motorbike manufacturer and a competitor of some of the biggest car brands in the world. So, how did a poor boy from Japan start a billion-dollar car company, Honda? And how did he become the founder of one of the most popular motorbike manufacturers all over the world? This is the story of how one poor Japanese boy went from babysitting kids to building a multi-billion-dollar brand with Honda Motors. Raised in poverty. The story begins in 1906 in a small village called Tenryu, Shizuoka, where Shisoru Honda was born into a poor family. At the age of 8, he heard a strange sound that snatched his attention, and when he followed the sound, he came across Ford's Model T. This incident left a mark on his life that would forever change the way he would engage with machines, and spent the majority of his youth helping his father with his bicycle repair business. In 1922, he wrote a letter to Art Shokoi, an automobile servicing company, for a job opportunity, and luckily, he received a positive reply. Then, at the age of 15, he left home and headed for Tokyo to achieve his dreams. His first step. But when he arrived at the shop's owner, Yuzo Sakakibara, had a job already prepared for him, to babysit the owner's child. Over the next few months, he had to carry a baby wrapped around his back, but after some months, the owner pulled Sashiro to help him out. His skill and devotion eventually caught the attention of the owner, who decided to take little Shihiro under his guidelines and teach him not only mechanical repairs, but the business side of the company as well. In 1923, Sakakibara himself began to build racing cars, and with the help of Shihiro. Their first model was the Art Daimler, and the second model was the Curtis. Curtis would go on to race in the Motor Car Championship in 1924 and took stunning first position, and from then on, motorsports became Shihiro's religion. On his own. Then, in 1928, Yuzo Sakakibara decided to open a branch of Art Shokoi in Hamamatsu and wanted to expand his business. For this, he chose Shiharu to run the new branch. However, during the first year, this new branch struggled because people didn't want to entrust their cars with someone so new and so young. But in the 1930s, his new shop had grown from a one-man operation to a staff of 30 people, and the branch grew at an incredible pace during the next few years. After that, Shihiro was not only known as a brilliant mechanic, but he was also a next-level racing driver. But in June 1936, Honda was involved in a serious accident while racing. Despite spending a couple of months at the hospital, and after several arguments with his wife and father, Shihiro never raced again. By 1936, Honda was planning to move on to manufacturing car parts, and so he decided to open his own company to manufacture piston rings and founded the Takai Sekiri Heavy Industry with one of his close friends, Shihiro Kato, the president of his company. Trial and mistake. After that, Shihiro started spending his days at the repair workshop and his nights developing pistons. It wasn't until 1939 that Shihiro finally created a successful working piston. Then, he quit his job at Art Shokoi and proceeded to work full-time at his new company. Honda began producing pistons, but his first creations were still unsatisfactory and nowhere near the quality they needed to be. Toyota contacted Shihiro to make pistons for the company, but 3 passed Toyota's standards out of the 50 he'd submitted. It was a big failure for Shihiro, but he didn't give up, and he spent the next few years traveling around Japan, visiting steelmaking companies and universities to improve his knowledge of manufacturing piston rings. After gaining some more knowledge and experience, Shihiro gave it another try, and the result was incredible. Not only did they pass quality control, but orders also began to come in from all over the country. Things were starting to look great for Shihiro and his company until Japan joined the Pacific War in 1941. Things went from bad to worse as many male employees began to resign as they went for military service, and his company began to struggle. In 1944, Shihiro's company was struck by a direct bomb blast, destroying the factory. After the war, Shihiro decided to sell what was left of his company to Toyota for a sum of 450,000 yen, the idea that changed everything. After that, there was a shortage of food, clothing, and shelter, and resources were rationed and the country experienced an economic meltdown. As a result, Shihiro couldn't even find enough gas to drive his car to the market. But one day, Chihiro came across a generator engine that belonged to the Japanese Imperial Army, which was used during the war to power up a wireless radio. He was captivated by the engine, and after figuring out how it worked, a bright idea came to him. So, in 1946, Chihiro used his old warehouse to establish the Honda Technical Institute for the purpose of figuring out a way to make motorbikes. Then, he and a staff of 12 men followed his idea and successfully managed to put together a motorbike using some engines he found along with other spare parts. His new invention instantly became a hit, and orders began to come in from different parts of the country. When Chihiro was running out of old engines, he decided to design and develop one of his own. So in 1947, he finished the Taipei engine, and for the very first time, the Honda name was illuminated on an engine. The Honda Motor Company. Then in 1948, Chihiro founded the Honda Motor Company. But the only problem was Chihiro needed more money to expand his production. So he wrote an open letter to all 18,000 bicycle shop owners in Japan for help, and 3,000 of them gave him a positive response. A year later, the company produced its very first complete motorcycle, the Model D. Even though the Model D was a big achievement for Honda, it was too heavy, so only a few people bought it. After this, Chihiro worked long hours to make another bike that was smaller and lighter. Within 3 years of hard work, he finally succeeded in building another motorcycle and named it the Super Cub, which was an instant hit and became so successful that it won the Emperor's Prize. The Super Cub reached the United States in 1958 with a sticker price of just $295, which was a quarter of the price of what other American motorcycles cost. And thanks to the company's marketing and engineering skills, it soon outsold both Triumph and Harley-Davidson in their respective home markets. But by then, Chihiro had also expanded his motorcycle brand into the racing world, and because of his hard work, by the 1960s, Honda had become the biggest motorcycle company in the world. But it wasn't enough for Honda, and there was another big dream he wanted to achieve: tracking his childhood ambition. When Chihiro announced he was going into the automobile market, many people warned him that it was too risky for the company. But Chihiro didn't listen to them, and Honda debuted its first automobile in 1963, the T360 mini truck, but it never gained much attention. Then he released the S500, and it was one of the rarest Honda cars ever made. In 1972, Honda debuted their new model Civic, and it became one of the most popular cars in the world. One of the reasons for its success, especially in the European and American markets, was its fuel management called CVCC, which allowed people to travel further distances with their car without burning too much fuel. It became the third largest car company in Japan in the 1980s, and the biggest car company on the planet. Now Honda has expanded into multiple industries, including jets, boat engines, power equipment, and robots. This is the true story of how a poor boy from Japan started a billion-dollar car company, Honda. What is your opinion about this motivational story? Please let us know in the comment box. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like the video.